So there we all were, looking forward to our usual monthly talk. This month it was to be about the history of RAF Syerston, the RAF station that's just down the A46 from Muskham. Today, Syerston is the headquarters of 2nd Flying Training School. It also houses the RAF's Central Gliding School, providing formal training courses for members of the volunteer gliding squadrons of the Royal Air Force. And because of this, we would probably have learned about Group Captain Carol Vorderman and the part she played in establishing the Air Training Corps' Glider Academy at Syerston. And yes, it is that Carol Vorderman. But most of all, we would have learnt about those brave men and true who, after Syerston opened in 1940, flew with Bomber Command in its Wellingtons, Manchesters, and later in the war its Avro Lancasters to deliver their deadly loads onto Europe. All this would have been in keeping with talks we've had in the past. We've had talks about the coming of the aeroplane and about the birth of the Royal Air Force. We also took part in some events to celebrate the RAF centenary, 1918 to 2018. But suddenly, it all had to stop. Coronavirus, a new word in the English language. We had to stay at home. We had to keep our distance. We had to take care when shopping, as always providing you could find a shop with anything in it. Streets have emptied. Events have closed. People are dying. Where will it all end? When will it all end? Who will survive? No, just a minute. Just a minute, this can't be right. This is a picture of a 1914-18 war grave cemetery. But we've remembered that. We know all about those nearly 20 million people who died in World War I. We remember them every November the 11th, on Remembrance Day. But between 1918 and 1920, something happened that we could also remember. We could have celebrated its centenary in December of last year, but we didn't. Even whilst men were fighting and dying in the trenches, fighting for what they hoped would be a land fit for heroes, soldiers found themselves sick and dying, without a wound, nor any shell splinters, nor stabbed by a bayonet. They were sick and dying with not even a mark on them. But the war is over. And we have won. So let's get home to our loved ones and celebrate the success that we've been fighting for. But at home, people are dying. That which was killing my mates in France is killing my family and friends at home. What sort of a homecoming is this? The Spanish flu epidemic that struck the armies in 1918 almost stopped the effort that was needed to win the war. The Allied war industries almost had to stop working. That might have meant the war would have carried on. Or it might have meant that peace would come at the terrifying price of an uncontrollable influenza epidemic totally wiping out the armies of both sides, with no one left to fight, and so no one left to celebrate victory. Just as the war was ending, Europe, and soon the world, was gripped by a virus that seems very similar to the one we're seeing today. It caused many of the same restrictions. It seems to have led to similar advice. With the same sorts of precautions needing to be taken, and perhaps the same sort of shortages. People tried to carry on working, obviously with the appropriate social restrictions. There were also travel restrictions, and police enforced them when necessary. Society tried to keep in touch, or people stayed at home with their families. The emergency services were stretched, but there was no national health service that needed to be protected. Neither was there a national health service to protect the sick and nurse the dying. Some people said the authorities were not doing enough, and some people behaved with no consideration whatsoever. Ah, plus ça change. Hospital wards were filled, and beds for the sick had to be put into corridors. Soon field hospitals had to be reopened, and soup kitchens organized. Deep cleaning and disinfecting became the order of the day. Laboratories all over the world went on red alert, and scientists searched for a vaccine. Clinical trials were held in the hope that people could be treated. And the needle won't hurt you a bit. Look at this youngster getting her jab, though heaven knows what jab they were getting. Even simple penicillin was not around for at least another 10 years. We know a great deal more about coronavirus than was known about the flu in 1920. But let's not get careless. Keep up your defences. Stick to the rules. Follow the advice. The worst part of the centenary that history forgot is the statistics. Lasting from January 1918 to December 1920, the pandemic infected 500 million people. That's a quarter of the world's population at the time. The death toll is estimated somewhere between 17 million and 50 millions. In fact, some estimates put the eventual worldwide death toll at 100 millions of people. 100 millions. This was one of the deadliest pandemics of all human history. So ring the bells that still can ring, and forget about your perfect offering, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Yes, that's how the light gets in. Here's to us all getting back on track again, and when the coronavirus crisis is over, putting the Muskham History Group back on the Muskham map. Thank you.